Mr. Vice President, great to see you again.
Good
How
to
are
see
you?
you. Welcome. Good.
Appreciate
Good. How you doing?
And thanks for sitting down. Well, I guess we start with a little good news.
Yeah.
Government is open.
That's right.
Okay, longest shutdown in history. Can you tell me what the point of all that was?
I wish that I knew, Sean, because here's what the Democrats actually accomplished. They caused a lot of stress for our troops. They made our air traffic controllers not get paid. They caused a lot of flight cancellations. They had a lot of people thinking they weren't going to get their food benefits, all for literally nothing, Sean, because we could have struck this exact deal 45 days ago. In fact, we met with Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer and said, we will pass this exact deal. They said no. They put the American people through a ton of pain and suffering for nothing. And we knew this was going to happen, Sean. We knew the President of the United States said every single day, eventually, the Democrats are going to realize this is an absurd position. We've got to reopen the government. And that's what they did.
As bad as it was getting, I'm trying to comprehend the thinking behind this. Except for 8 Democrats in the Senate and 6 in the House, they wanted it to continue. And there's real palpable anger that it didn't continue. I think Chuck Schumer's cooked as a result, even though he did everything that his base wanted.
Yeah, so let me say a couple things. First of all, I do give a lot of credit for the moderate Democrats in the Senate who were with us from the very beginning. Because if you remember the original bill to keep the government open before the shutdown even started, there were 52 GOP senators, 3 Democratic senators. They recognized where this was going. They recognized what was in the best interest of the country. But I think, Sean, there are so many far left people who run the Democratic Party in Washington, D.C., they just want to burn it down. They don't care if the troops don't get paid. They don't care if you cause billions of dollars of lost productivity. They don't care if you shut down the airline industry, which they were very close to doing. They just want to get Trump. And they don't care if they have to burn the entire country down in order to get Trump. That's what they want to do. And I think that it shows how stupid that approach is politically, because normally you would expect the President of the United States to get blamed for a shutdown. The American people were smart enough to recognize that the Democrats were the ones who were sort of holding this hostage. They were saying that unless you give us everything that we want, unless you give us $1.5 trillion of benefits, health care for illegal aliens, we're going to destroy the country. We're going to keep the government shut down indefinitely. I think the president recognized eventually the American people are going to recognize this is the Democrats doing this. The Democrats, I think, made a huge political mistake by continuing to push for all of these crazy things. And they said, if you don't give all these crazy things, we're going to keep the government shut down. It was politically stupid, but you're right. I don't understand the psychology of a Democrat who says, we'd like to burn the country down in order to get Donald Trump. But unfortunately, it just drives home. That's what their party is about.
That was the thing, $1.5 trillion, hundreds of billions of dollars for health care for illegals, DEI programs abroad, NPR, PBS to fund them once again. And I'm like, that's the hill you want to die on? During the process, at any point, did any Democrat, any leader, did you have conversations with them, say, work this out with me? Did that happen behind the scenes that nobody knows about?
Oh, of course. Privately, we were having conversations all the time. And frankly, privately, the Democrats would recognize the position of their far left was crazy. But they all feel a little bit like they're being held hostage by their far left. You said it very well. Chuck Schumer, this probably ended his career, and he was the person who was fighting more than anybody to keep the government shut down. So the far left, they're never going to be satisfied unless the Democrats are willing to burn down the entire country. Luckily, there were a few moderate Democrats who allowed reason to prevail. We have to step back, Sean, and remember how crazy the demands were. They wanted $1.5 trillion, a lot of that health care benefits for illegal aliens. They wanted us to undo all of the great border policy that we've been doing. They wanted us to refund, like you said, NPR and PBS. They were basically saying that we want the far left's priorities to dominate in the Trump administration, and unless that happens, we're going to set the entire country on fire. A really disgraceful moment for the far left of the Democrats, and frankly, a very revealing moment for the American people, because what were they asking, Sean? They weren't saying that we want to do great things for the American people. They weren't talking about jobs. They weren't talking about health care. They were talking about, give us $1.5 trillion for health care benefits for illegal aliens. And unless you do that, we're going to make it impossible for you to fly home to see your family on Thanksgiving. It's just craziness that was ever their position, but it was.
Will we get it back up and running fast?
You know, it's going to take a little bit of time to get everything fully up and running. They actually brought the bill over to my house last night around 9 o'clock to sign it because as the president of the Senate, I had to sign it for the Senate. Mike Johnson signed it for the House. And then, of course, the president of the United States had to sign it into law.
Uber eating bills from Congress?
Right.
Is that...
Yeah. Basically, I mean, the Senate parliamentarian was driving around in an Uber, going from place to place to get this thing signed. But I had this conversation with the president yesterday afternoon. I said, assuming the House is able to get this done, do you want to sign this tomorrow morning? He said, no, I want to sign it tonight because the only way to get the people's government turned back on as quickly as possible was to sign the bill as quickly as possible. But, you know, it goes to show the entire time, the president, the entire administration, we were focused on getting the government turned back on, getting critical services actually funded so the government could function for the American people. The Democrats were focused on, we want to take you hostage. We want to make it hard for you to get home to see your family on Thanksgiving so that we can give your health care benefits to illegal aliens. What an incredible juxtaposition of priorities. We care about Americans. They care about illegal aliens. That's been true for years. They made it super clear with this government shutdown fight.
Let's talk about, obviously, the economy is always front and center for most Americans. I would argue that foundationally, everything's set. Trillions of dollars of committed monies for manufacturing, largest tax cuts in history. It took quite a while, over a year and a half, for the Reagan tax cuts to kick in.
That's right.
Ended up with 21 million new jobs, longest period peacetime economic growth. President Trump now has given us the largest tax cut in history. No tax tips, Social Security, overtime. Then you add the energy component. So for people now that maybe are still suffering from the Biden-Harris economic hangover, when do we really see the engine of the economy start to take off?
Well, some of it's already started, Sean, but some of it is going to take a long time because we inherited a disaster. We inherited the highest peacetime debt and deficits in the history of the United States of America. We inherited the worst inflation crisis in at least the last 40 years, and I think probably longer. So a lot of Americans, when we took over, they were struggling. They either were underemployed or they didn't have a job altogether. Their wages had been stagnant. And the President of the United States said the most important thing that we have to fix is for people to be able to live a good life. We need a good job to pay good wages. We need people to be able to go to the grocery store and actually buy what they need for their family. That takes a little bit of time. And I know that there are a lot of people out there, Sean, who are saying things are expensive. And we have to remember they're expensive because we inherited this terrible inflation crisis from the Biden administration, but you've already seen signs that things are getting better. The price of eggs has gone way down. The price of energy has gone way down. The price of gasoline has gone way down. And as we know, when the price of energy goes down, that starts to filter out into the entire economy, but that also takes a little bit of time. There's another component of this, Sean, which to me is maybe the most important because I care so much about our young people being able to afford a good life. A lot of young people are saying housing is way too expensive. Why is that? Because we flooded the country with 30 million illegal immigrants who were taking houses that ought by right go to American citizens. And at the same time, we weren't building enough new houses to begin with, even for the population that we had. So what we're doing is trying to make it easier to build houses, trying to make it easier to build factories and things like that so that people have good jobs. We're also getting all of those illegal aliens out of our country, and you're already seeing it start to pay some dividends. Let me give you a very clear statistical example. Under the Biden administration, the price of a new home literally doubled in 4 years. It went up 100%. Under the Trump administration, housing and rent prices are up about 1% to 2%. That's actually in line with what you would like to see. So again, we inherited a disaster. We're very mindful of the fact that there's a lot of work to do, but I think that we've made great progress. And the final point I'll make about this, Sean, is the most important way to fix this affordability crisis is to make people's wages go up. And that is where the Trump economy, I think, just objectively, obviously I'm very biased, but I think objectively is doing better than any economy in 50 or 60 years. Blue-collar wages are going up, working people's wages, middle-class wages are going up, and that's how we ultimately chip away at the Biden affordability crisis, is that we make an economy where people can afford to buy the things that they need. The best way to do that is good jobs and good wages, and that's why the president's focus is where it is.
I want to see that manufacturing get online because those are high-paying career jobs.
Yes, they are.
You know, we are going to bring in-house. We always imported and were relying on other countries for pharmaceuticals, semiconductor chips, automobile manufacturing. The president negotiated it out. Those deals, I want to see those jobs get online, hopefully sooner rather than later.
That's right.
Apple's going to spend what? $500 billion in Texas.
They're going to spend at least $500 billion in the United States, and that's just Apple. We've seen about $18 trillion of new capital commitments, Sean. That, to your point, those are good career-creating jobs, and nothing like that has ever happened in this country. If you go back to the Biden administration, a good year for the Biden administration was a few $100 billion of investments. The president is getting trillions upon trillions of new investments. Now, of course, I'm mindful that people were suffering, Sean, because those factories don't get built overnight. These things actually take a little bit of time. But here's what's different from the Trump administration, the Biden administration. The president is focused now on getting people good jobs, getting people higher wages, and bringing down the cost of goods. We inherited a disaster. We've chipped away at a lot of that problem in 10 months. But that's why you've got 4-year terms, because we're going to do a lot over the next 3 years, 3 months to make sure that more people can afford a good life. They can afford to buy homes. Young people can afford to start families. And we've actually got good jobs that put people on a career trajectory to stability. The biggest problem with the Biden economy wasn't even the affordability. That was the second biggest problem. The biggest problem with the Biden economy is that people had the kind of jobs where they couldn't build a career out of it. They'd make $14, $15 an hour with no promise of ever being able to make more. That is not how you build a middle-class American dream. That's how you build debt servants. And that's what the American people are becoming under Joe Biden. It's so important that we stay the course, keep these economic policies going so that Americans can own a stake in their own future, build the kind of life that every American deserves.
Back to the home building part. It's interesting you brought it up. Are you as obsessed with AI as I am?
I am.
Okay, I don't know. I'm a grok guy.
Okay. Me too. I'm a grok guy.
You're a grok guy. Okay. Elon, I think it's the best.
I think it's the best. It's also the least woke. I'm always asking myself, if I ask an AI a question, is it going to give me an objective answer?
If the vice president puts it in extreme mode,
woke answer.
If you put it in extreme mode just for kicks and giggles, it's a little. Well, if you want,
I have not, Sean. I don't want the media to attack
If you want
me.
to know the neighborhood that Donald Trump grew up in and the kind of language you probably heard every day, you can put it in extreme mode. It's pretty funny.
I could tell it's talking like my grandmother, and then we'd be in good shape.
Well, okay, so the housing shortage, the estimate is what? Between 4.5 and 6 million homes. We're shy right now?
I've heard those numbers, yep.
Okay, I met a guy that's building a company that 70% of a home can be built with robots at about $200 a square foot. Now, where I live in Florida, you're not getting any home anywhere near $200 a square foot. So will that be a factor? And then you have to think of, okay, are we going to lose blue-collar jobs? How do we transition people into the economy if they're going to lose those jobs?
Yeah, so a few things about that, Sean. First, we probably need to build about 5 million new homes. And if you look in the red states, we're actually doing a very good job. One of the biggest challenges that we have in the housing market, aside from too many illegal aliens who are taking the houses of American citizens, is that in the blue states, you're not building enough houses. So you go to California. Why are so many people moving out of California? It's, yes.
I have a guess. There's no water. No. Your friend Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, my friend Gavin Newsom.
Maybe if they put water in fire hydrants and reservoirs, that might help, right?
Yeah, but they're not building houses. You look at those terrible fires that happen in Los Angeles. You have people who are still trying to get the permitting to rebuild their houses. This happened so long ago. So we've got to get our blue states to build enough houses for their citizens, because our red states and the federal government is actually doing a really good job. By the way, one of the biggest cities where you're seeing housing costs come down? Austin, Texas, because they're choosing smart policies and they're building enough housing. Now, on the AI issue, look, I understand why people are worried that, if you have a robot doing that job, does it take away from a blue-collar worker who can do that job? Right now, the evidence that I see is that if we really lean into robotics and technology, it's going to raise everybody's wages and make everybody better off. The example that I often give is of bank tellers. If you go back to when the automated teller machine was invented, everybody said it was going to destroy the jobs of all the bank tellers. What actually happened is that today you have more people working in bank telling than you did 50 years ago, they're doing different jobs. They're not just handing people money, they're doing different jobs, but they have higher wages. So sometimes what technology does is it allows somebody to do something a little bit different, to use their mind a little bit more than some of the rote tasks they might have been doing. And that actually means they're more productive, they get better wages, and everybody becomes better off. So I don't think that we're going to ever eliminate the construction industry in this country just because you've got robots. What you're going to have is a lot of construction workers who are using those robots, who are directing those robots, who are actually able to do more with less because they're using technology to help them. You're always going to need construction workers in this economy, but I want their wages to go up. And I think if we lean into technology, that's what's going to happen.
It's actually amazing because you'll see them, they'll do the framing, they'll put on the siding, they'll do actually a robot will put on the roof. It's kind of crazy.
It is crazy.
They'll wire the house, they'll put in insulation, they'll put up the wallboard, they'll paint the wallboard, and then the finish work, in comes the craftsman. I'm not so sure that the AI is going to be able to do that, at least in the short term, but it wouldn't surprise me.
No, look, I think a lot of the craftsmanship, a lot of the direction, a lot of the management, you're going to need a human being to do that. No robot can replace a great blue-collar construction worker. You know, you see some of the houses, some of the things they do, the trim that they're able to do. There's an art there that I don't think a robot's ever going to be able to replace. But can a robot maybe make it easier for a construction worker to put more nails and more walls over a shorter period of time? Some of the rote things, in other words, you're going to see, I think, robotics help the construction workers. And I think that's going to lead to higher wages, and it's also going to lead to more homes for American citizens.
The president would love it if they could build the one big, beautiful ballroom faster. If a robot could do it faster, I think he'd hire the robot, because I know that's obviously important.
Well, but this is an interesting point, though, Sean, because if you go back to you know, there really are, I think, two different models of how you make people more productive, of how you create economic growth, of how you make people better off. The Democrat model was import low-wage immigrants. And I really do think that hurt the jobs of our construction workers. It hurt the wages of a lot of our blue-collar workers. But their idea was the way that we get more prosperity is that you import more and more low-wage servants. And that actually, I think, reduced prosperity because it meant that a lot of our blue-collar workers were struggling. But if you use technology and you empower the blue-collar workers rather than replace them with foreign labor, I think they're going to do way better. They're going to make higher wages, and the whole country is going to be better off. In other words, do you depend on low-wage immigrants, or do you depend on American citizens bolstered by technology and innovation? That's the Trump model, and I think that's the model that's going to deliver long-term prosperity for this country.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.